Good morning, good evening, or whatever time of the day it is in which you're tuning in again to me. This is LaWanda Shields again with Two Cute Life Lessons. And today I want to talk very quickly about uh his heart is in God's hands. And so if you follow me on Facebook, then you may have heard this talk before. But if you're not, if you're new to me, then great. We're going to talk about how the king's very heart is in the hands of God. And I think that's awesome. And we'll look at the life of Nehemiah. He was a king bearer in Persia. And so what had happened was the wall was down. And check out my series on walls. That's where I'll be discussing that. But the wall was down, and he was grieved in his heart. His very spirit was grieved, and he wanted to rebuild his family's wall. That was his heritage. That was a part of who he was, part of his family lineage, and he wanted to go rebuild the wall. Problem was, he was the cupbearer for this king, a Persian king. And the tradition was the cupbearer had a very, very important job. But you could not go before the king unhappy. You had to smile. If you made the king mad, then that meant some very bad things could happen to you. So Nehemiah, he was so sad he couldn't hide it. He goes before the king, and the significance of that is king asks him, "Why are you sad? What's the matter?" That's a loaded question, because wrong answer could mean your demise. So, but God touched his heart. And before Nehemiah answered, Nehemiah prayed. And in an instant, that's how fast God can take care of us, how fast he can answer prayer. God was able to touch and change this king's heart. So he answered Nehemiah favorably. He didn't kill him. He didn't tell him anything bad. He allowed him to go home and to Jerusalem and rebuild their wall. We're told in Proverbs chapter 21 that the heart of the king is in God's hands. And so we know that this king's heart was in God's hand. And we can even go back to Moses as he goes before Pharaoh. Each time that he went to Pharaoh and he requested for him to let the children of Israel go, we are told that God hardened the king's heart. The king's heart hardened because God hardened it. But when the time was right, God softened his heart. He allowed those children of Israel to be released to go to their promise and to leave Egypt. So God has complete control, even of our elected officials. Those are in charge on our jobs, our bosses, whoever it is. God has their hearts. And I'm going to give you an example of something that happened to me. Not long ago, I was working and I had a situation going on. I needed a lady over me to give me some paperwork so that we could get a process done for a child. And she was just determined she wasn't going to do it. She was adamant. She said no, and she got this other lady over me to say no. And it was just no, no, no. And I was so upset because it was very important to this child's well-being and to what was going on. And I think I don't know if she was trying to assert her authority or what, but her heart had been hardened. And so I was grieved, but what I immediately did, I began to pray. I called my prayer warriors on the phone. I said, ladies, I called my pastor, I said, look, I need you guys to pray. We need to pray now so that this situation can be changed and changed for the better and changed immediately, because it was a time-sensitive issue. By the time I got off that phone, by the time those prayers were finished, I got a call saying that the ladies had changed her mind. She was going to allow us to do what we needed to do. So her heart had been softened. God can change anybody's heart. And it doesn't take a long period of time either. You call him and he'll come. That's just like when Nehemiah prayed. He needed an instant answer. He needed an instant response, and God gave it to him. So don't think our God is short and that he can't save. He can do whatever he wants to do. And so as I conclude, I want us to remember that God has the heart of the king, of the pharaoh, of your boss, of your job, the person that wherever office it is or whatever it is that's over you, in his hands.